But the Parthenon's greatest riches, the craftsmanship and beauty of its sculpture, live on.
The Parthenon has been called a sculptor's temple, and I think that is a true characterization in many ways. First, this building was the richest sculpturally of any building that had ever been built in Greece before.
Phidias, the master sculptor of the age, oversaw every detail of the Parthenon's unique sculptural wealth. Working outwards from Athena, he exploited every opportunity to decorate the entire building. The sculptures were not just decorative. They reminded Athenians of their history and reaffirmed their exalted place in the universe. The best preserved of these sculptures are held in the British Museum. They include sections of the Parthenon frieze, considered by many to be the best low-relief sculpture ever carved. The detail achieved with a maximum depth of 5 centimeters is remarkable.
The Parthenon frieze is the best sculpture to survive from the best period of Greek art. And if it's remarkable now, it was certainly so in its day, not least for the sheer scale of the thing. Carved 3 foot 3 inches high, it ran for 524 feet around all 4 sides of the temple. In the frieze, nothing is more glorious than the stream of mounted horsemen that flow down much of its long north and south sides. When Pericles took over the running of the Athenian state, he inherited a cavalry with no more than 300 men, but at the time of his death, he had increased it to 1,000. The challenge to Phidias, whom we credit with the design of the frieze, was to convey a sense of the thrill of standing on the sidelines of the Athenian parade ground, watching Pericles' cavalry of 1,000 ride by, and also to capture something of the natural grace and rhythm of the riders. And one of the tricks he used was to create marker figures placed at intervals down the frieze who would indicate the 10-fold division into the tribal units. So here is one such figure. We see that he is placed nearest to the spectator and not overlapped by any other rider in his group. But he overlaps the figure to his right, who overlaps the figure to his right, who overlaps the figure to his right, who overlaps the figure to his right, until we reach the figure, this one here, looking back over his shoulder, who is 7 in from the front and who marks the furthest point away from the spectator.
Dominating the exterior, the eastern pediment portrayed the birth of Athena. Much has been destroyed, but the fragments that remain give us a tantalizing glimpse of their original narrative power. Almost certainly painted in dynamic colors, they capture the very moment of Athena's birth. Horses pulling the sun god Helios announce the beginning of the day. Set in the acutest angle of the pediment, they are mirrored by horses on the opposite angle.
To balance, the chariot of the sun god Helios rising in one corner of the pediment, the chariot of the moon goddess Selene was shown sinking beneath the horizon of the other. Here is one of her team of 4 horses. We see how brilliantly the sculptor has articulated the different elements of the face. The 2-tier of the spiky mane, the great roll of muscle on the neck, the plate of the cheekbone and the trumpet of the muzzle. But unlike the horses of Helios, this horse is tired. It is at the end of its journey. It has spent the night drawing the moon goddess and her chariot across the vast canopy of the night sky. Its nostrils flare, its jaw gapes, the veins stand out, the eye bulges, the ear is pinned back as it makes one last effort at the end of its labors to find home and the peace of the stable.
Circling all four sides of the Parthenon, sculptured panels record key moments of Greek legend.
I'm standing by a metope, a panel carved in very high relief, which is one of 92 that ran around the outside of the temple above the columns. All the metopes of the Parthenon showed scenes of mythological battle. On the south side, from which this one comes, centaurs, part man, part horse, fight it out with male Lapiths, a race who lived in northern Greece, the area called Thessaly. Here, the human figure has fallen to the ground line and now lies supine with life seemingly ebbing from his limbs, while over him rears the centaur in an explosion of arrogant triumph as he claims the rest of the picture, and as he does so punches the air, and you can see a skin of a panther which he has slain and is now an emblem of his wild nature.
The message of the sculptures is twofold. The pediments and cavalry friezes express devotion to Athena and the military strength she blessed them with, while the legends of battle serve as a memorial, reminding Athenians, lest they forget, of the barbaric past from which they had been freed. With the Parthenon, Pericles' vision to create a monument celebrating victory and revenge had been finally realized. In his biography of Pericles, Plutarch, the Greek historian, imagined the immediate impact of the whole Acropolis on its citizens.
The most wondrous thing of all was the speed of their work. For while it was thought that each one of these works would take many generations to reach an end, all of them were completed at the height of a single administration. For which reason, the works of Pericles are to be particularly wondered at, being made in so short a time for all time. For in beauty, each one immediately became ancient, yet it seems fresh and newly made even now.
But in reality, these glory days were short-lived. 20 years after their initiation, work on the Acropolis came to a halt. By 434 BC, civil war with the Spartans had intensified, and the Acropolis was never completely finished. These unfinished stones at the base of the Propylaea show where the work was dramatically curtailed. 5 years later, Pericles died of the plague that decimated the city's population. In 404 BC, Athens was finally crushed by the Spartan army. The Golden Age was over, and with it, the brief flowering of democracy. Athens would never achieve the same dominance again. When the Roman Empire annexed Greece, the Acropolis was preserved as a monument of human greatness. But with the advent of Christianity, the Parthenon was converted into a church. Many of the sculptures were defiled to erase the memory of its pagan past. In turn, the city fell to the Ottoman Empire. The Christian church was converted into a mosque, complete with minaret, and its statues were further defiled. The faces of the Erechtheian caryatids were sheared off, even though the Sultan used the building as his harem. Yet even after 1,000 years of cultural vandalism, the Acropolis remained largely intact. But by 1687 AD, the Ottomans were at war with the Venetians, who lay siege to Athens. The Ottoman commander stored his gunpowder within the supposed safety of the mosque, the Parthenon. On the 24th of September, the Venetian general, Francisco Morosini, turned his cannon onto the Parthenon. In a continuous artillery onslaught, lasting from noon until nightfall, the Parthenon suffered 800 direct hits. The inevitable happened. One shot penetrated the roof and ignited the gunpowder. In a split second, the Parthenon was damaged beyond repair. Over 300 years later, only the latest innovations in archaeology and restoration